Israel is truly coming into the focus, not only of great innovation and great products, but soon to be the hottest thing in advertising. And you know, this past year, there's already been 2 exits of 2 major advertising companies that have both presented here. One is called Amabi, and the other one is Dotami. So I think the Israelis have got their finger on the pulse when it comes to advertising. But let's take it from the top, and let's learn from the masters as we go into our next session called Advertising on Fire with Yossi Vardi and the worldwide CEO of Young Rubicam, David Sable. Please come on up. Thank you.
Okay, David, first of all, thank you very much for making the long trip from New York to Los Angeles. We are going to spend the 20-odd-some next minutes on shameless promotion of Israel. How about that?
Good, good. I love it.
Okay, so can we start? Maybe you tell the audience a little bit of your CV, your history. Who are you? What have you done? What are you doing? Why you were willing to come here?
So I am an advertising person, as you know. I've been in the business literally since I was in high school. I started selling copy to ad agencies because I thought it was something interesting to do. I guess I always wanted to be a writer. I wasn't good enough to write a novel, so I learned how to write headlines and copy. I went into the business and spent a couple of years in New York being trained. Went to Israel in 1979. I told this story last night, some of you might have heard it. We saw an opportunity, particularly in Israeli high tech, the business.
This was not your first visit to Israel.
No, that was not. But that was when I went married. So we moved, we made the Aliyah. My wife actually is Israeli. And we saw this opportunity and we started this company. We became partners with what was then the largest advertising agency in Israel, Arielly. Started a company called Mimsar, and those who speak Hebrew know the play on words. So Mimsar also was a relay. Limsor was about high-tech relays, because relays had just started to come
Messer
into,
is a message.
And a mess. So it all kind of worked together. Did that for a bunch of years. Came back to the States and went back into the business, and here I am.
And here I am. What is here?
Here I am the chairman and CEO of Young Rubicam. We're part of Wpp, which is the largest marketing communications conglomerate in the world, and we're one of the largest ad agencies. It's a famous, well-known equity. It's been around for quite a number of years, almost 90-something, I believe. And those of you, again, I mentioned this last night, those of you who watch Mad Men will know the name Young Rubicam. We feature very prominently, often not very nicely. But I will tell you that all those stories you see are sadly true.
Can I check the strength of the brand?
Can you check the strength of the brand?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Who in the audience heard about Y&R or Young Rubicam? Raise your hand. Not bad.
Not bad. Not bad.
And you have a room to even increase it.
I hope so.
Yeah. What is the brand that you are studying one of the brands you are studying for the last 3, 4, 5 years?
In terms of?
In terms of studying brands.
So when I look at brands today, the brands that I look at the most, outside of the usual brands, so obviously my clients like Dell and Ford and Microsoft, but I'm particularly interested in brands like Amazon, because Amazon is a brand, brands like Uniqlo, which has actually become one of my favorite brands to study these days, brands like Facebook. And the reason that those are the brands that most interest me is because if you read the analyst reports, and if you read some of the blog material, what you read is that the notion of brands are dead. Like you hear this a lot, that brands are dead. And yet, people buy from Amazon because it's a brand. And Uniqlo has become successful because they've created a brand. Facebook is a brand. I mean, it's just what it is. So what's interesting to me is how these brands have managed in a world where we claim there are no brands, and we claim that brands don't build anymore, how they've managed to build really in the same way that brands have always built, by delivering good product, good service, value for whatever the transaction is. Sometimes it's not money, sometimes just the amount of time that you spend with it, and the ability to get you to come back and to do it again.
And can you tell us a little bit about the divide between incumbent advertising and digital, how it's
So
changing?
what Yossi calls incumbent, some call traditional. So
My English is very...
So I say that there is no difference. So here's why I say that. I think it's a lot of crap to talk about the difference between digital, non-digital, traditional, and non-traditional. For example, Google is now fairly traditional. Like, we know how to use search engines. It's a traditional medium. What's new today is traditional tomorrow. That's number one. Number two, we believe that digital is everything, right? So digital is everything. Even print is digital. So there is no form of communication today that doesn't have a digital base. But everything is not digital. So, for example, we're here in this conference, right? This conference could have very easily been done online. It could have been some virtual conference, but none of you, exactly. But none of you would have had the opportunity to network in quite the way that we have. You wouldn't be able to see people face to face. You wouldn't be able to get, and if you listen to Jeff Povich, Jeff is really great at this. You know that you wouldn't be able to hug and kiss and do all the things that are important in order for us to be able to actually transact. Thank you. I love you too, very much. So we don't believe that there's a big difference, and I think that this difference is being pushed by the analysts because it helps them take poor brands like Groupon to market, because somehow they say, well, this is all digital, digital, digital. The truth of the matter is, if you really look at Groupon, and I'll use that as an example rather than Facebook for now, but you take a brand that, first of all, exists because they have a sales force. So really what's interesting about them is their sales force, which is very 1950-ish. So they go door to door and knock on small businesses all over the country. But the brand is dying because, in fact, there is nothing particularly digital about it, other than digital gives them a channel that's very efficient to deliver a message. But in and of itself, if you don't have a good product, if you don't have a good service, if you don't have a good offer, it makes no difference if you're digital, if you're on paper, if you're skywriting, people don't want it. So we don't believe that there's we think that divide is the wrong way to look at it.
By the way, I have to thank you, personal note. I gave once a kiss to the CEO of your group, and then for half an hour he went like this. At least you saved me the humiliation.
I'm not going to wash. What are you talking about?
David, what is Y&R Sparkplug?
So the Sparkplug is a way for me to get the people who work for me really excited about what's happening in the world and to get my clients excited as well. So because I have been, as Yossi's disciple, and I try to follow in his wake at the various conferences and the unconferences and whatever.
You will not have time to walk if you follow me to all the conferences.
True. I've been exposed to some of the greatest, most amazing startup companies ever, as much as I have today. And I decided that I needed a way to get that energy into our company. Now, part of the problem is that we don't have because of the nature of our business, I can't invest in every one of those businesses. It doesn't make sense. We're not very good investors. We're very good at what we do, but we're not very good investors.
So you developed a way for free ride.
Exactly. So the way I developed the way for the free ride is that we see a lot of these different companies, we vet them, and we offer space to the ones that we think are most interesting to us and to our clients. And so, for example, in New York right now, Jeff Povich, Jeff, are you here? Jeff has office space with me for Purple for one of his new ventures. Yoni Bloch, who some of you might know, my adopted son, is now with us with Interlude, which we're very, very excited about. We have another company, not Israeli, called Unconventional Partners, who are amazing developers of content and interesting projects. That's what we're doing in New York. We've now started this in Singapore and Brazil, and we're going to roll it out around the world. You also heard the presentation from Microsoft this morning in Israel, and we have become a partner with them in the accelerator. So we're providing mentoring on the marketing side, the advertising side, to some of the companies inside the accelerator. So this is a way for us to keep our fingers on what's happening, to really be involved. We also started a virtual Sparkplug last Sukkot in Israel, Yossi helped me sponsor an event, which we're going to do again this year, where we had some 200, I think, young people, entrepreneurs, just really interesting people came together in Herzliya for dinner. We had a small program, but it was really just about our ability to network and to talk and to share. And we set up a little website, and we asked them to fill out. And of the group there, I'd say probably 80% filled out the card, and we've been in touch with many of those companies. So that's the Spark Plug.
Now, the Spark Club, the Spark Plug, shed a light on very interesting situation that for innovation in the last 10 years, the big companies have to go to the edge and attract the developers and the energy which happen outside of the mainstream of large corporate. What is, and you are moving between Israel and the United States, you really understand the culture of the two communities, probably as good as anybody else or better than anybody else. How do you see the role of Israeli companies in the whole worldwide ecosystem of innovation?
So not that I'm biased, but I think we're the best, frankly. I think that
you say it's the best and they don't applaud. What kind of audience we have? Why don't we go and continue the dialogue outside?
Let me explain why I think it's the best. So I learned this back in 1979 when I started working with Elsint and Elbit and Rafael, by the way, Tasya Avirit and Tasya Tzva'it, and all these other companies, all who were my clients. And what I realized is that there's technology and then there's applied technology. Now, we tend to use the words interchangeably. I think what Israel is brilliant at applied technology. We are brilliant, and I think it's just the nature of who we are. In fact, one of the first advertising campaigns that I ever ran, that I ever created in Israel, was for Elbit, and it ran in military publications around the world, and the headline and the theme for the campaign was Battle Bread, B-R-E-D, not B-R-E-A-D, Battle Bread. And the idea was that the systems were battle bread, but not just in war, but by the fact that the environment in Israel, the approach to life, the way that we looked and tried to solve problems, all came from conflict. And because we had to iterate, because we had to jury rig, because we always had to be the ones who were just a little bit smarter about getting by with less, we were able to create amazing applications of technology. And I think that that's exactly what it is today. I think that Israelis are not afraid of challenge and not afraid to fail. You cannot be in this business and be afraid to fail. If you think you're going to succeed every time, you're wrong. I think it's one of the problems in America. Because everybody sees not that Israeli entrepreneurs don't want to make a lot of money, we all do, but they understand that you have to fail in order to succeed. And I don't think that all the American ones do. The other piece that I'll say, and you heard about Startup Nation, I'm sure everybody here has read the book, but I think that in America...
Who read the book? Who didn't read the book? So it's about 15% read, 10% didn't read, 75% don't understand my accent.
So I think everybody should read the book. It's really, particularly the Americans in the room, because I think that it's hugely instructive. But one of the things that you understand when you read the book is that one of the great advantages of the Israeli system is that Israeli employers know how to read an Army CV. They know how to read an Army resume. So you look at a resume, you know if a guy is from Shimon Matam, you know if he's from a particular unit in the Army, that he's an incredible programmer. You know if he's an officer in a particular unit, he has a particular leadership quality. You know that if he did some job he's particularly fearless, whatever it is. In America, if you get somebody coming to you with an Army resume, you wonder what the hell is wrong with them. You think that they're nuts. Like you wonder, why am I going to hire some guy who's who wasted his time in the Army? And when you think about it, it's really sad because they're really smart people, and those are dedicated people, and they want to succeed, and they showed initiative by going to the Army. And here in America, we tend to blow these people away. We just don't even talk to them. In Israel, we know how to talk to them. We know what to do with them. So I think that's one of the great innovations that we have, or insights that we have, is being able to take from the Army and apply what they've done for that year and a half or 3 years or however long they've been in, and channel it into tech and stuff.
Tell me, how many people are in WPP?
In WPP, I don't know, 40,000,
No, WPP more, no?
50, 80, I don't know. A lot of people.
A lot of people. And in such a gigantic organization, what the company is doing in order to inspire innovation?
So WPP does a lot. In fact, Yossi does some of that inspiring for WPP. We run a program which we're very proud of called Stream, which is an unconference, and everybody know what an unconference is? How many people have been to an unconference? More of you should go because it's an amazing event. But essentially, it's a few days of completely unstructured chaos that in the chaos and it's being unstructured is actually quite structured in the sense that it's designed to get people to write on a whiteboard that they're going to give a class, that they're going to give a lecture, that they're going to give a talk, that they're going to ask a question, that they want to get a group together, and people just coalesce around these issues. And then you have a lot of time to play and to talk and to network. So we run a program called Stream. It's so you've been, and you come all the time. They're very successful. We have one in Europe and one in Asia every year, and we're doing one in Cannes this year at the Advertising Festival, running a special one. So that's one thing. Second thing that we do is we have a group called Wpp Digital, where we bring together all of our digital acquisitions and digital companies and digital investments and give everybody in the company a chance to see them, to meet them, to understand what they do. We hold conferences. We encourage people to go out on a limb and to try new things. So we're constantly striving to get people interested in new technology and to understand what the technology does.
What do you see as, or what would you mention as Israel's role in digital advertising, digital marketing? What do you see in Israel which serve this space?
So I think, well, outside the fact that the Microsoft group has created, if you go to MSN, and if you look at any of the Microsoft properties and you look at the different ad units, most of them were created, many of them were created in Israel. I think the notion you just saw, retargeting, I like the Raphael one. I thought that's real retargeting. That's the kind of, I know a few people I'd like to retarget like that.
By the way, there is 20% discount for anybody in the audience who want to buy Iron Dome system for domestic use.
And if you do it today, you get a free soda stream. So,
You're a really good marketer.
So I think that there's
Soda Stream is a client of yours?
No, I just like the product. I think that if you look at retargeting, if you look at particularly where Israel is strong is in retargeting, is in data, is in, as a Moby, where's Zara is here someplace. I think that just in looking at how we turned the mobile platform into an advertising unit. So I think where we do very well is in the technical side, is in the innovation side. Now the way we look at innovation, by the way, because I think this is important. So we created our own lexicon and our own definitions because we had to. So we say creativity and innovation are two different things, right? So the way we look at it, our job is to be creative. That's what advertising agencies do. We create the story. We create the content. We create the connection. We understand the consumer. Innovation to us, which is what you guys do, is you give us the channel to take our story and put it in. So when I ask my people to be innovative, I don't want them to be creating technology. It's not what we do. I want them to know who you are so that we can use the most incredible channels, use the most incredible technology to take what we do and deliver it to the customer, user, buyer, consumer, whatever, in the most efficient and effective way possible.
David, I would like to use this opportunity to really thank you on behalf of the industry because I know that you became kind of a pilgrimage target that everybody in Israel, every kid in Israel who is doing something which he think relates to advertising / marketing / sales / promotion find his way to your office and you see them all. How many Israelis you see in a month, roughly?
10? Quite a number. Quite a number. I mean, I don't turn, it's sad to say, but I turn nobody away just because I think it's important to, much like you heard Jeff talk about why it's important to motivate people. I just think it's important to motivate these young people. They come with ideas, they have dreams. Sometimes I have to burst them a little bit and tell them that someone's done it or they're just not thinking right. But it doesn't matter. Every time you do that, they come back 6 months later and they have a new idea. And they have another way of looking at it. And sometimes they just do great, goofy things. I remember Yossi Taguri's peh. You know, just one of our friends, great young entrepreneur, just came up with just this crazy little idea of blowing on your on an iPad and going peh and making this thing fly across the screen. It was crazy. And how
including all his germs.
And how many downloads did he get? 300,000.
Gazillion. I don't.
It's crazy. So you just need to be on top of these people. You need to be motivated. You need to be listening because you never know where the next golden goose egg comes from.
Where did you meet Yossi first time?
Where did I meet Yossi first time? By you.
No, where?
In Keynote. Absolutely. One of the great weekends of my life, by the way. You should know. So for those of you who are observant, like I am, so I noticed. So in Israel, I wear a kippah. I don't wear one typically at work, but I do wear one when I'm in Israel.
Because God is looking much closer in Israel.
Right. And so I noticed Thursday night there were lots of guys with kippot around, and I noticed Friday morning there were. What I didn't realize was the day got shorter, and Friday kept on. Came Friday afternoon, I was the last one standing, and I was the last person with a kippah. But it was, Yossi came to me and said, you're about to see, and those who speak Hebrew will understand, he said, you're about to see the biggest Chilul Shabbat you've ever seen in your life.
The most spectacular one.
And he was absolutely right. It was spectacular. And it was a great weekend, and it was to this day, from the first time as a Keynote, there's probably 15 people who have been my friends, my close friends since, people that I see and speak to on a regular basis. And
the idea, for those who are not familiar with the concept, again, the idea is to unleash creativity, to remove the hesitations and the barriers, and to let people unleash their creativity in the most wild and crazy way. And it works very nicely. Our time is about to end. Do you want to say anything about the branding of the State of Israel?
Where's David? There he is. We do a lot of work with that, so I'm very proud of a program. It's called, in Hebrew, Mutag Yisrael, Brand Israel. It's a program that we were very instrumental in helping get off the ground some 11 years ago. We as in Y&R, have donated literally millions of dollars of research that goes into this program. And what I will tell you is the good news is that we do have a very good and powerful brand. The sad news in America is that our brand is not as relevant as it should be, particularly amongst the younger crew in America. It's not about anti-Semitism. This is the last thing I'll leave you with. It's not about anti-Semitism, and it's not that they hate us, and it's not that they love Palestinians more. It's that we haven't made ourselves relevant because we don't tell your story enough. And this is the story that we need to tell, because this is the story that's relevant to everybody. And this is the thing that makes me proud of being an Israeli. This is what makes me feel every time I go to Israel that there's not just the pride, but the connection and the connectivity to the country and to the people. So I thank all of you for giving me the reason to get out of bed in the morning, because you really do.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Sable.
Debut into the world of advertising, and we're so thrilled. And this is a book that tells you to look at the world differently, which is really what you're talking about, of how to have a better perspective. And Yossi, you always cause me to look at the world a lot differently.
Yeah, by the way, I want to say that the book you gave the speakers last year was a real, how do you say, gem or gem?
Gem.
Gem. Was fantastic book.
You're going to love this.
I don't remember what it was, but I remember it was a great one.
I figure that we're the people of the book. We should celebrate
we should have books.
With books. So this is for you, Yossi. Thank you. And for you, David.
Thank you.
May you continue to help us see the world differently and achieve lofty goals, because we take action from your inspiration.
And the wonderful thing about David, I don't know if you notice, half of the time he say we, he meant the Americans, and half of the time he say we, he meant the Israelis. This was really nice.